Welcome to today's episode of Magnus Mindset Podcast, where it's our mission to help you grow in the skills, knowledge, and relationships to help you live your best. I'm your host, Tim Balow, and if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. Well, today we're going to be talking about a new discussion I want to start for the year on habits. Yes, it's a new year, new possibilities. Let's talk about it. How do we move forward in our life? How do we get the goals that we want to do in the new year? I don't personally hold to New Year's resolutions so much because I know statistically that 92% of those will not last, really even past February. Only 8% of New Year's resolutions, some people see those through the course of the year. We want to talk about what do we need to do in order to help us become who we want to be. Again, it's the who before do. Who do we want to be? What is the life that we want to live so that we know then how that we should act? If we know who we are, then we know what to do. And so we're going to unpack this a little bit because it comes down to what are we going to be doing consistently across the course of this new year when it comes to our goals. Author Sean Covey, the son of Dr. Stephen Covey, he says, our habits will make us or break us. We become what we repeatedly do. Again, there's some consistency inside of that. Whether it's, hey, it's a new year and I want to stop eating junk food. Hey, I want to stop procrastinating. I want to stop overspending. We can take a look at all of those kinds of things because, again, in the beginning of the year, we say, I want to stop eating junk food. And within a couple weeks, we've restocked our shelves with junk. We want to stop procrastinating, but then we find ourselves sitting on the phone for hours on end. I want to stop overspending. And the next thing I know, I got all these packages arriving on my doorstep, from Amazon. So why is it that we generally fail at this idea of creating new habits in the new year? We're very excited in January. Hey, I'm going to do all these things, but there's some reasons why we typically do not succeed in that. So let's talk about those. One reason why we don't typically succeed, why we do generally fail in these, is that we focus more on the what, but we don't understand the how. We focus on the what, but we don't understand the how. You see, here's the thing is that when it comes to the goals that we're setting, and I would say that they are goals because New Year's resolutions, we often just kind of talk about them. Sometimes we don't even tell other people because we don't want to be really accountable for that. We just want to kind of keep that close to the chest, don't tell anybody. And then when we don't do it, then, it's okay. Nobody really knew anyway. So the goals, when we have goals, we write those down and we keep those in front of us. But we have to also understand that goals don't really determine the success. It's really the systems that determine our success. Author James Clear says, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. We have systems in place, believe it or not, like it or not. When you look around, what is the support systems? What are the success systems? And then what are some of the failure systems that we have in place that sort of bring us right back into our old habits, our old patterns? If you want to have a great marriage, then we have that as a goal. We write that down. What am I going to do in order to have a great marriage? Well, again, coming back, we really want to know the who am I going to be? I want to be in a great marriage. I want to continue in my great relationships with my kids. I want to continue to be in great relationship with my coworkers. So what does that look like? And then looking at the systems that either help me be great at that or the failure systems that actually drag me right back down. If we can fix what we do, then the outcomes will fix themselves. It needs to change in our systems that will help cause those results that we want. Next reason why we sometimes see failure instead of success when it comes to our habits and trying to develop those new ones in the course of the year. And that is that we just simply don't see progress fast enough. We don't see the progress fast enough. Yeah, I started this, I want to start walking and getting more exercise, so I walk 3 times a week, right? And you do that through the month of January, and then you hop on the scale, and you've gained a couple pounds. Well, that can become very, very discouraging. You want to start saving some money, so you stop buying the really expensive coffee, on your way into work, and, after a couple weeks, you realize you really haven't saved all that much. You really wanted to save a whole lot more. It's just not accumulating quick enough. Here's the idea is that we wrongly conclude that these small good decisions, that they really don't matter much. Here's the thing, it's that consistency. It's the what we do repeatedly. If we're making a bad choice repeatedly, then over time we will always have bad choices. If we make good choices repeatedly over time, consistent installments into our good behavior will actually help us to get to where we want to be. We cannot underestimate the value of small good decisions that do matter over time. We also kind of wrongly conclude that small bad decisions don't matter much. Again, if you're maybe working on your diet and you're like, hey, I don't want to eat as much sugar, and you're weeks in and you're doing great, but you have that day where, your sugar, addiction, your sweet tooth really has a hold of you and you eat something. Well, that's a bad decision that day, but you don't have to go, well, that was it. I got to give up on the whole thing because I made a bad decision. That was a small bad decision, and the next moment you jump right back on and you get going with it. Our life is really a sum total of a whole lot of small decisions that we make. Small bad decisions, they rarely wreck your life. Not all at once. Typically, small, right? That's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about big bad decisions. I'm talking about these small bad decisions like I skipped leg day. I did eat the sugar items. I did buy that thing on Amazon. Hopefully not a huge thing. But those small bad decisions, they rarely wreck your life. But over time, they do add up. Also, the same thing, small good decisions, they rarely help your life because those small decisions, if you're only doing them once in a while, then they're not adding up. You're only like, hey, I feel like I'm going to go for a walk, and you only take a walk every once in a while. You're really not moving yourself into your goal of better health. So when it comes to this idea of we want to see our goals and we want to accomplish those, we know who we want to be, we can have that picture of the kind of life that I want to live. We will sometimes get very discouraged because we focus more on the what but don't understand the how, and we don't see the progress fast enough. It's the things that no one sees that really bring the results that everybody wants. So let's talk about that third area of why we don't succeed. And that really comes down to our identity. Our identity really shapes our actions, and a distorted identity really sabotages our success. We'll have people telling us, who they think that we are, and they will connect that failure to our identity. We connect then that failure to our identity. And there's a difference between, if you're not familiar with, the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And we'll unpack this and explore this in future episodes as well. But the idea of a fixed mindset would say that, well, I didn't do it right, so therefore I'm not good at it. Well, a growth mind says that I didn't do it right this time, so I'm not good at it yet. And we can take that as a growth area for us to start working on. But if we do it beforehand with the identity sabotage thing, I didn't do it right, I'm not good at it, I'm just a miserable person. So, and if you did a bad thing, then you are a bad person. So that's the kind of ideas that we get stuck on our health. Here's the real point of that is that an unhealthy identity actually creates some unwise habits. When we have that fixed mindset and we sabotage ourselves, we have an unhealthy identity, and that actually creates unwise habits in our life. We kind of acquiesce to what maybe the expectations of others are around us, or we buy into the lies that others are telling us, thinking that we're just miserable, we're failures, we'll never be more than, and some of those things, they're not even maybe current day. Some of those voices are in your head because you heard those as a child. You heard those from a parent or a friend, a trusted person, someone you loved said those kinds of things, and it just hurt. It scarred you. And so you end up having this unhealthy identity, and that really creates unwise habits. And those unwise habits actually reinforce the unhealthy identity. It's that, oops, I did it again mentality of, I'm never going to stop this bad habit. I'm never going to get over this addictive behavior, destructive behavior, whatever that might look like. But I want to be better. So I want to encourage you to take a different approach this year, is that rather than having these do goals, which is what most everybody does at the brand new year, I want to talk about the who, right? We talked about who before the do. So we're going to talk about if you want to become more of a leader, maybe at home, at work, in your community. Do you want to be a financially stable individual? You want to not have that anxiety, but you'd rather have financial freedom. You want to be a more healthy person, be it physically or mentally. You want to grow spiritually. Whatever that looks like, this is what you're going to be doing. When you know who you are, then you know what to do, right? We said that at the beginning. So I'm just feeling really trapped. I want to change my mind on this. Again, that fixed mindset, growth mindset says, I want to develop a healthy identity that will create then positive habits. So my growth mindset says that I want to have a healthy identity that creates positive habits. And that's what's great is these positive habits actually go on to reinforce our healthy identity. So who do you want to become? That's the question that you have to answer. You've got to sit down and identify and look at your life and say, how am I seen, number one, by other people, because that is a good litmus test. So talk to your spouse, talk to your kids, talk to your coworkers, talk to your family, because maybe there's some things in there that they've identified that you haven't really thought of. But certainly you probably have. There's that public facing you, there's that private facing you, and then there's the you that only you know. You look in the mirror, and when you say, hey, this is the kind of person that I want to be, well, then I know what kind of person needs to do those actions. So what is the character of this person, and what would a person of this character, what would they do? How would they react, or how would they respond? For instance, what would a healthy person eat? What would a wise person buy? So no single action is ever going to really change your identity, but multiple actions over time, they actually change how you see yourself. And how you see yourself, well, that eventually changes your identity, how you perceive yourself as well. This idea of I can't becomes the I can, but maybe just not yet. And again, as we talked before, that successful people do these things consistently. Small investments of effort and time over time make big returns. So the good news is you don't have to be perfect. You could have a skip a day, you eat too much, you went on a cruise and had a buffet. That's not going to be a downturn on everything. That is a moment. So whatever that looks like, just continue to be focusing in on, I want to make small, smart choices consistently over time, and you're going to see a radical difference. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure that you share it with a friend. Again, remember to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the episodes of this podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.